Hello, everybody, and welcome to Traumaplicity Talk Show. My name is Dr. Amanda Helman, and I am your host of Traumaplicity, which is trauma, which is one event that might impact you positively or negatively based on an event, a situation, circumstance that can impact how you view yourself or others. And then we have simplicity, which is simplifying the steps on the healing journey, simple steps in a complex process, because our brain, when we hear simple, is ready to move ahead. So I'm actually going to be talking about, we have many paths, but we have one narrow path that is just for you, your unique self. And often when we do this, the many decisions we make will impact our journey. A little background about me. My name is Dr. Amanda Helman. As I mentioned, I am an breakthrough coach, an author, and a speaker. In fact, I just wrote the book, Silent No Longer, Finding My Voice After Complex Trauma. I have seen hundreds of people, including lots of women, but also men, break through in their personal and professional goals to overcome emotional barriers that have impacted their thinking and limited beliefs and mindsets to shift them ahead and move forward so that they can be who they're called to be. It is amazing to see the growth that I see in them. And a lot of times it comes down to our decisions, even our decisions on how we think. I can relate to that, can you? Because I've certainly been in places where it's been a challenge to really think about the truth about a situation because I've had emotions or because I'm still processing. I want to start today by talking about decision making. A lot of times today we talk about collective societal decisions that we can make based on data, but we also have individual decisions. Did you know, based on different surveys and research, even nationally, internationally, and statistically, from different surveys and questionnaires, that a lot of people rely, 81% of people rely on a lot of research, meaning they are investigating, looking at facts, looking at different scientific-based or evidence-based, or looking at different research about a topic when they're making a decision. But you also have some people that 43% go to their friends and family to help them make decisions. Then you have professional experts. About 31% of people go and talk to experts for that. And then you have about 15% of people that just do a little bit of research, which might just be looking into things, but it might not be in depth to make a decision. And another really interesting fact about decisions, that's collectively for big life decisions, but every day, do you know that we actually make 35,000 different decisions as adults in the day? It does make sense when we think about the amount of minutes we have in a day for 24 hours, as well as the seconds. That's a lot of seconds. And if you think about it even now, right now, you're listening at the second, you're deciding, am I listening in? Am I listening to something else? You're making decisions to stay tuned in or go to your phone. You might be making a decision about eating now or eating later. And that can all happen within 10 or 15 seconds. You might be making 4 or 5 different decisions in one setting and one sitting. And that's really interesting because, in fact, when we look at research, 3,000 decisions are made in children. It's a little different, isn't it? And as we grow up, there's a lot of decisions, but our brain is constantly pinging and making decisions in that second, what we're going to do. Pretty fascinating information. When we think about decisions, it can be impacted and, in fact, influenced by others. But going back to the topic that there are many roads, but just one path for you, one unique path. And so when we're thinking about this, it really is looking at confidence in the decisions we're making. At the end of the day, we live with ourselves 24 hours a day. So what is the best decision for us? And a lot of times it might be on our feelings based on what are the actual facts or what is the best path for us. And as in my journey, I'm not sure about you, but in my journey, I've made decisions at times that weren't the best for me. I definitely learned lessons, but they weren't, but I learned a lot in the hardship of the decision that's impacted me today. And so when I've learned how to make different decisions and have different questions to help me make better decisions today. So when we're confident in our decision, we can make it and we feel firm. Confidence is without doubt. It's steadfast. It's standing firm. It is not movable. we are confident in what we're doing and the decision we're making. And so that's really an important part about it. And I want to go to one little story. Hopefully I can tell you the story on confidence. So I have one decision. I've had many little decisions, but one life decision that really helped me know that I can make a decision and be firm and know what's next was when I was leaving from high school. I went and visited different universities, state universities in Pennsylvania, to decide where I was going to school. And I went to my aunt's college at Kutztown. I went to Stroudsburg. I went to all these state universities, and it still didn't feel like home yet. And finally, I went to Millersville University. And when I parked by the Swan Pond and at the beautiful field for field hockey and saw the landscape, and then when I also went to the different buildings, I knew I was called to be there. And in fact, there was adversity with this school. I was accepted in other schools, and I could have went for full time right away. And when I went to Millersville, I almost had to go in this special program, even though I had honors in high school, based on I had anxiety during tests. So I almost had to do the spring summer thing, but it ended up working out that I just went the whole fall, like everybody else, and I excelled during it. But I knew with confidence I was called to go to Millersville University. There was a surety and a certainty, and I knew that was my path. However, in my life, as I continued, and I was teaching in Arizona years later after I graduated and had my education background. And I was a first year teacher, and I was moved away from home. I had different changes. I was in a state of transition. I had many choices at that time. And I've written about this in my book, Silent No Longer, Finding My Voice After Complex Trauma, available on Amazon, by the way, if you are interested in learning more about the journey. But I had to make a life decision, and I was not sure what to do. I could go back home and attend Lehigh University. I had an interview, and I got a job as an educator. And I also had an opportunity to possibly go overseas in Africa, be a missionary. I also had an option to stay in Arizona, stay at the school, perhaps just continuing to teach students, or I could also go to one of the universities. So I had 5 or 6 choices, and I realized it was confusing. Even though I had choices with the universities in school, it was different because I didn't quite know. Like, I knew when I went to Millersville, right? Like, I had other options potentially, but it was different. Like, I was going there just to go. But in this case, I was invested in all of these things. I was passionate about all these things, and it was so muddied because I kept adding on options. Whereas for Millersville, I knew, like, I didn't have to keep going back and forth. I knew, and I had taken time to go to these places. And so with this other choice, it was different because I had these passions, though they were all called for in different times in my life. Like, I had passions, but some of them weren't for a now, it was for a later time. And so that was a huge thing, is that can impact us when we're thinking about many paths or one path. And so you might be saying, okay, Amanda, these are good. Yeah, like about decisions, I can relate to you and some of these stories. But what do we do? Like, how do I narrow this down? And how do I know with certainty at times to make some life decisions that are helping? How do I use decision-making skills? Those are great questions. So how can we make choices that impact our journey? And the first thing is, I'm going to show you my thumb. You have a unique path that only you can go on and pioneer. Yes, maybe other people are doing that, but no one can do it like you. Your thumb is a unique fingerprint. No one else has it. I've heard that from a lot of my friends. There's a character program that my friends do called Cohesion Network, but they go in schools and they talk about the fingerprint, but that's scientific. We know that there's only one fingerprint part. And so we have a unique path to serve people. And it's sometimes scary because it's uncertain and we don't know what things are coming all the time. But there's 5 things that we can do to help us make sure that we're not being led by others, but we know what's good for us and we've thought about it and we have that piece. So the first thing is identify your choices. I talked about Millersville, but I talked about my other ones. And again, what are the main ones? Because there could be 100,000 different choices. There could be 300 different universities, but identify your choices. And you can do that by identifying pros and cons. Like, what are things that you absolutely love or don't love, even if it's like going to university or making a job decision? What is it that about you? Which leads into the third thing, which is values and beliefs. What are your values and beliefs? Because what you believe and value and what you're looking at ahead is going to be where you go. So what I value in me and what my beliefs are going to have to align with the choices that I'm making, where I'm going, and also looking at pros and cons. Like, those all go together. The fourth thing is, what is the peace? Like, when you sit with it, what gives you a lot of peace? Which one would you miss the most? And sometimes we're so nervous with some of them, but like, which one is it that you're so passionate about? And like, which one has the things that you know you need? And then that could clearly go with the research. The next one is again, to give yourself time if you have it. Now, sometimes we have to make decisions, but life decisions, we usually have some time to weigh it. And so what is it that you want in your life? And sometimes I'll just say, this might go different because I go into deep beliefs in coaching. If we have belief patterns that we don't deserve it or we're not worthy, we could actually, in fact, miss our path. Or if we're really hurting, we're going to go on way off of our path because we're upset because we're not getting something we want, or we're thinking that we have, like, we might as well give up the path anyway, because it's not looking like I want it to be. Now, that has to do with a lot of heart healing, and I'm compassionate because it's hard. It's hard to make decisions that are often difficult to make, and depending where we're at. So I've made decisions in frustration and anger, or out of just not really knowing who I was, and that has cost me. So yes, out of wisdom, I learned that, and we all have our journey, but a lot of times looking at what is the one that will help me the most and be the most beneficial for myself. And that's going to be something you have to ask yourself. And that really leads into the fifth step, because I gave you 5, but I would say a bonus step is asking questions yourself. What am I passionate about? What do I really think is important for me? What do I value about myself? What do I value about me? And that could be in health and wealth. That could be in where you're comfortable living, or sometimes you're getting out of your comfort zone. But those are questions to ask yourself when making a decision. And these will all help you get to the narrow path. And sometimes that narrow path is not always easy. For example, for me this year, I decided to leave a job that I was certain that I could have salary for my dreams of doing coaching. And that was an adventure of learning how to venture off and do that, and to have that boldness and to learn things I never learned when no one else understood it. And so that leaves me with something else to encourage you, is that sometimes you might not be understood and people might not understand you, but you knowing who you are and what you carry. I know what I carry in terms of having this emotional safety, encouraging people, inspiring people, empowering people, and knowing what I overcame to help people have quick acceleration in their personal and professional goals, and also empowering them to know who they are. And that's important. And then they'll carry what they need to ahead. And so that's some of the conversation I'm having on today, talking about making decisions that help you get to the narrow road, because there's many paths that could be easy and not have the fortitude you need or get you the grit. But the very narrow road is not always what everybody's telling you to do. And it's also not what all society is telling you to do. A lot of times to do what's right is to move on a path, and sometimes you're alone for a little bit, but don't be discouraged, because sometimes you're pioneering something new and other people will come with you and they'll move ahead of you. And that's amazing. I know as I pioneer in my unique area, just like you have a unique area, people are going to go ahead of me and I will be the ceiling, to their base. And that's okay. And so when you know who you are and what you carry, and you're confident in impacting others' lives, you're going to cheer on other people too. So hopefully today you'll be having some tips to think about how to make a decision, especially if it's a life decision. Obviously in the moment we have seconds, we have 85,000 decisions, but we're making some bigger weighted decisions. What are the things I need to think about? So hopefully those 5 tips will be helpful for you. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I have Trauma Publicity Talk Show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on the Amanda Helman author and speaker page on Facebook. And sometimes it's pre-recorded with just me, or I have a guest. So next week I'm actually going to have guests, and it'll be every Wednesday. So you can come on my page, you can follow it. And I wanted to share this across the different media because I thought it's so important. Decision-making skills are so critical. So thank you for your time, everybody, and catch you next week. Take care.